Hello and welcome to the MovieKing Podcast. My name is David Jurmann and I'll be your host. On today's episode, I'm going to review the film The Long Walk. So, I have a lot to say about this movie. This is a film that I was really excited to see, but also knew it was going to be brutal to watch. And right I was. This movie is hard to watch. It's violent, it's intense, it's gory, and you have to see a lot of good people die in very upsetting ways. So I think inherently this movie's not going to be for everybody, but I do think there's a lot to talk about here that just kind of goes into why I think this movie could be worth checking out for you. And, I think this movie's kind of like a much more messed up Hunger Games. If you think the Hunger Games was like violent and cruel, imagine that, but to a greater extent. And I think comparing it to the Hunger Games is actually very intentional because this movie is even directed by the same guy who made the vast majority of the Hunger Games films, and that man is Francis Lawrence. The film is also written by J.T. Molnar, who made one of the biggest pleasant surprises from last year, Strange Darling. I still highly recommend that film, by the way. It's been a full year since I watched it, and I still actively think about it. It's been on my mind quite a bit. Just a really good movie. And then the script for this movie is actually based on a book written by Stephen King. And I really gotta give it to Stephen King. He has so many stories and books being adapted into films. Like, I swear, it's like every few months a movie will come out based on his work. And it would be on stuff I never even knew was written by him. I mean, just this year alone, we've had The Monkey, The Life of Chuck, The Running Man, and now The Long Walk, like all made by, Stephen King, all adaptations of something made by Stephen King. And the story of The Long Walk, for those who aren't aware, is basically a group of boys who volunteer to do this thing called The Long Walk. It's at a time where money is hard to get and people are desperate. They really want change and they want, to make their families happy, and they really just want a better future for themselves. And in this long walk, the boys have to constantly walk at or above 3 miles an hour. Anyone who fails to do so will be shot and killed on the spot. And basically, there's only one winner and no finish line. They will keep going until only one person is left. So even watching this movie was incredibly stressful because in addition to watching all these characters slowly lose themselves and become mentally and physically drained over the course of the movie, in the back of your mind, you're also constantly reminded that a lot of the people you're caring about and really rooting for will not make it to the end of the movie, and only one character will survive. And that's the same feeling you get in the Hunger Games too, only that in this case, it's just a much more drawn out exercise, and it's really just, it's rough to watch. Like, the Hunger Games is just, kind of a battle royale for survival, and, you only can have one winner there too, and it's a similar feeling, but this movie's also rated R, whereas those were PG-13, so it feels a lot more, it's a lot more intense and a lot more just kind of disturbing imagery. But all this becomes especially brutal given the fact that this movie has two leads in it, Cooper Hoffman, who is Philip Seymour Hoffman's son, and David Johnson, who is coming off hot from Alien Romulus last year. Both actors are terrific in this film. Hoffman and Johnson have great chemistry. I love their interactions with one another, and I found their friendship to be at the heart of the film. They really both shine in a lot of ways, and the way both of them had an impact on each other, the characters, the way they kind of, made each other see things differently, and the way you can see them inspire each other was very touching, and I think, that friendship is really what makes this movie have a lot of feeling. It's not just scary, it actually has, heart to it. And I highly doubt it'll happen, but personally, I would put both actors on for the Oscars this year. I don't think it'll happen just because of the type of movie it is. I don't know, what the Academy's going to think of it, really. But I think both actors are terrific. I would not be mad at all if either of them were nominated for Best Actor. I think they would absolutely deserve it. Both of them would deserve it. David Johnson in particular, I've noticed just from seeing him in a few things, is also worth being in the conversation for one of the best actors working today. His range is incredible. I mean, just seeing him play basically like a robot in, an android in Alien Romulus, and then going to this, which is a very emotionally rich performance. It's really crazy good. And I think in time he will win a Best Actor award. It's only a matter of time. Could be, a couple of years, could be 10 years, could be 20 years, but he will he will absolutely win an Academy Award in his lifetime. I can almost guarantee you that. But back to this film, one thing I really admired about it is how human it is. Seeing a group of people who know the majority will die and are just trying to survive is devastating. It's hard to watch. But what's kind of beautiful about it in a way, in a very strange way, is that we're seeing the best of humanity here. Don't get me wrong, we see some bad people doing bad things, and that kind of represents almost the worst of humanity. But there are a lot of people in this group that are actively rooting for one another. They're trying to help each other last as long as possible. They're trying to help each other survive. They're not just trying to sabotage, everyone, because no one wants to watch someone die. Like, everyone's trying to kind of make it through this together, even though it's impossible that they will. And it's an interesting reflection in today's society where it feels like everyone thinks for themselves and would happily put each other down if it meant winning. But I think this movie shows that winning isn't everything if you lose people you care about. And the script does this great job of showing the beauty and love throughout the entire film. It finds ways to be hopeful when there's dread written all over it. These moments where characters would just kind of, they'd laugh and they would talk about fun things. And I was like, it makes it feel more hopeful in a way. Like, you really feel like these people, despite having like no hope at all, like they actually still kind of are in this thing together and they're really just trying to make it through and find friends. And it shows a lot of nuance and shades of gray in many of the characters. The way you see people change as they get more exhausted, some ways better, some ways worse. The way you see desperation come out of people in their worst moments. The way you see sacrifice made to help people. And the way friendship can come across from unexpected places. And this movie is kind of political. I think it's done in a way that's respectful and is more of a commentary on humanity and how there are clear divides in classes. It's not pointing fingers at any one person. It's just kind of saying, as a whole, we need to be more considerate for each other as people. And we need to, really make sure that everyone's kind of on the same page. Like, we can't have some people just being miserable and working all their life for nothing and then having other people just kind of sit back and watch the whole thing. And Hunger Games also did a lot of commentary on this, and I don't know if this is really doing much differently from that film, but I just think the way it's executed is really solid and really engaging. I think it's very well done, and it's a really good movie. But as I said, it's a really hard watch. I can't emphasize that enough. I just found myself looking away, or nearly looking away, multiple times, which I can probably only count on one hand. The amount of times it's really happened to me before in movies, like the amount of times I actually felt like I might have to just look away from the screen. That happened a few times here because you really care about the characters and like, sometimes movies will cut away when something bad's gonna happen to a character just because they don't want to show you, like, the bad imagery. Like, this film shows it, though. Like, you will see, like, I don't want to say it really on here, but you will see some really messed up imagery that's just kind of, it's burned into my brain now. Like, it left an impact, but it was very effective. And when the movie ended, despite being kind of disturbed, I was really glad I watched it. And I feel like there's a lot to take away and think about. And, it's been a few days since I watched it, and I still constantly, like, I'm kind of reflecting on the whole thing and just thinking about what it all really meant and how it made me feel. And, how, especially the ending. The ending really leaves a lot to think about and talk about. The movie certainly left an impact on me, and it will undoubtedly be one of the most memorable films of the whole year. And I don't think the movie is necessarily perfect, because the movie is almost entirely outside with people walking at all times. It can feel a little repetitive for a little bit, and it's not the movie's fault. Like, I think that's just some of it, is by the nature of it, but also because it's not in real time, you have these cuts where time will pass, and the movie just has to keep reminding you of how many miles they've gone. And it's just, I would have liked, maybe a few moments where we could have just been a little more still with the characters. The movie gets going pretty quickly. I mean, it takes it takes a few beats to get going, which I liked, and I liked that we got to kind of get to know the characters a little bit before they had to do the walking. But, the movie just kind of has this one note. Like, the Hunger Games, you have a lot of different sections of the movie where it feels like there's a lot of different sequences this movie feels like one very long sequence of people just walking to a different place, and like they'll walk past that place and they'll walk past another place. I think also just, again, as I was saying, like real time movies give a little bit more of like an oomph to it. Like this movie just kind of cuts, it'll be daytime and then we'll cut to like nighttime and they've passed, another 40 miles and you're like, Jesus Christ, like this is insane. But you're just, I think those cuts kind of maybe take a little bit out of the momentum. Like you're like, okay, now we're in a different part of the movie now. Maybe it's better in the book because maybe the book is long enough that you can really feel that pace get drawn out. But the movie's not that long. It's only, an hour 40 something minutes. So it can't really take that much time to really let you feel the length of it. But that's just something I noted. It's not really even something I have against the movie. It's just maybe something I would have liked a little more if we felt a little bit more of like a length. But in a lot of ways, this movie is actually more of a drama. You spend a lot of time getting to know the characters and their motives and their feelings, and that's also one of the best parts about it. A lot of other movies would just ignore a lot of that and be more focused on the action and the gore. The Long Walk, I mean, when I saw it, I thought it was going to initially be more of a horror thriller because of just, what kind of movie it is, like what kind of movie it sounds like. You just hear people walking and everyone's going to die basically, and you're like, that sounds like scary. And this movie is apparently making a very big impact on people. Like, I think they had some test screenings. The reports were saying that apparently people's heart rates went over 200 beats per minute, which is the equivalent of a fighter pilot's body under 9 Gs of force. The average human heart rate is 70 to 80 beats a minute, so it basically doubled that. And that's really insane. I mean, the movie's really making an impact in that regard. I don't know if, for me, like, I watch so many movies, I don't know that it did that to me, but I will say there were moments where, again, I literally, like, almost had to look away. I felt like my heart just, like, kind of stopped for a second. I was like, oh my God. Like, it's that feeling where you feel like you're just gonna go down on, like, a roller coaster. Your heart just kind of, like, stops. It had a little bit of that. It's a very intense movie. Definitely can see why it's like affecting so many people. I mean, even in my own auditorium, like I heard some people kind of like gasp a little bit, like, like they were just so in shock. And it's a very, it's a very brutal movie in that way. But I just really think the movie was smart to handle the drama the way it did. It really puts an emphasis on character development and just themes. And I think I think ironically, the gore in this movie hit so much harder, specifically because I cared about the characters so much, because I was so invested in their outcome. Seeing a lot of the stuff I did see affected me more. And I think even, I mentioned this before on this podcast, but Stephen King had this quote when the movie It came out, and it was basically saying, like, the movie is scary because we care about the characters. If you don't care about the characters, it's not scary. And that's where this movie works so well, because you care so much about the characters that seeing something bad happen to them scares you, and you don't want it to happen. You really don't want to see anything bad happen. You're like, gotta look away because I can't watch that. It's like watching something terrible unfold right in front of you. And the it does it a lot. It doesn't get old. Like every time it happens, like it's still very effective. But yeah, this movie is really good. I'm not sure if it's the kind of film I want to rewatch necessarily. It's like, it's really good, but I just don't know if I want to rewatch it, at least soon. I mean, I'm sure I will rewatch it at some point in my life, but I don't know if like I want to go see it in the theater again because it's so much. Maybe I would. It's not a complaint or anything against the movie. It's just that watching it was a hard thing to do. And I think if you can handle it, then I do recommend seeing it. This movie's like not for the faint of heart, so if you're in that group, I would say probably just don't watch the movie. Maybe read the book instead. I don't know. But if you think that you can handle it, I do think it's worth checking out and it's worth your time. I really did think it was a great fun. I mean, I do think it's one of the best movies I've seen so far this year. Not like exceptional, but the more I think about it, it's really good. I'm kind of torn between a B plus and an A minus, but it's really either one of those. I think I'm maybe leaning a little bit more towards an A minus the more I think about it. It's just a really strong film, so I would recommend seeing it. Just know what you're getting into. And that about does it for this episode. If you want to follow my reviews, you can find me on Letterboxd at MovieKing1224. You can also listen to this podcast on your favorite apps such as Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and Amazon Music. If you have any comments or feedback, I would love to hear it and improve the show. And of course, if you've enjoyed this episode, please consider liking, subscribing, and hitting the notification bell to hear more like it. I appreciate you all so much for listening, and I'll talk to you next time. Thank you. Bye-bye.